Welcome back to the garage, guys. As promised, we're heading back in the bug today to do some work. America. Hey, please do me a favor and do a quick like on this video just underneath there. While you're doing that, back in about episode 10 or so, I was working on the halo cage, and that was a chore, but we got it in, and it was actually pretty high and tight, and that made me excited because it would give me the headroom that I wanted in the bug. Then in episode 16, after installing some sound deadening, I reinstalled the halo to keep it out of the way while I moved on to other aspects of the build. Well, one of the last things my son Sean and I did was put one more strip of sound deadening just below the window. All went well, but when putting the cage back in, Sean and I ran into some trouble. The halo wasn't fitting as nice as it once was. The problem with this right now, obviously this is way, I'm a little concerned that it's too far forward. If you look, it is actually really far forward, and it wasn't that far forward before. So the plan is to look at the back mounts. This used to sit fully flush against this back firewall. You can see there is a bit of a gap there, especially over here. So my plan is basically, I'm gonna drill a hole, put a bolt in, and then push it up. Then I might actually also cut out this sound deadening. That little bit of sound deadening that is pushing it off, I want that space up front. So anyway, so I'm gonna cut those off, drill a hole, put a bolt in, squeeze that totally against the back. That will get me and regain my spacing here. I'll be able to use the jack to push up, and that'll push this dent back out as well as hold it to where I need it. And then I'll build the downward tubes to just above the heater inlet, and that will hold it up now from there on. Then I could start, once that's all in place, once all of this is in place, I'll be able to cut out the dash and start the front stringers down to the A-pillar, bottom of the A-pillar. So that's my plan of attack. Let's get it done. I actually did end up cutting the sound deadening from behind the halo landing pads. Then I cut the tack welds that held the front up, so I could drop the back of the cage down and remove the rock mount. I will say that it was harder to remove than I thought it'd be. All right, just peeled away the sound deadening on the corners there. I'm gonna put the cage back up. The funny thing is, on this side, the sound deadening actually, when I pulled it, it pulled off the paint as well. That's pretty nuts. Kind of glad though, actually it's sticking that well. But anyway, it's time to put it back on the back shelf, and hopefully it does not fall. So watch my back. Here I'm taking a little more out of the driver's side, then drilled a hole and inserted the bolt. Let's do the other side. All right, y'all. Oh, that was fun, wasn't it? Okay, let's take a look at what we got here. As you can see, it's a little different spacing. Maybe not. No. As I go up, it's going to pull it back and stuff. So, as you can see, much better spacing on that one, and definitely on that one. On this side, you can see where the sound deadening actually squished up and actually pushed it off a bit more than I wanted it to. So now we're going to take my jack and a long piece of wood and lift the sucker up. All right, here we go. Check it out. As you can see, much more room in there. I didn't make very much room to begin with, so every little bit counts. So Yeah, every little bit counts. It's going to be pretty tight. I want it to be pretty tight. All right, I got to trim a little bit off. This needs to go up higher, frankly. I want it to be tight. I really want it to be tight. As far as worrying about it hitting against and rattling against the roof and things of that nature, I'm not too worried about that. Each of these downspouts is going to be tied to the windshield channel, the A pillar or the B pillar. So it's not going to be able to move too much, but still. Not putting it all the way against the roof. I am just putting it really close. So I just need to cut off about 1/4 to 1/2 inch there, and it will go. It will go just fine. Here we go. All right, there it is. Let's lift it back up. Boom. One finger. That's where I wanted. All right, that should do her. But see if it works. Hopefully it doesn't fall on my head. It's not falling on my head. Bonus. Okay, so cage is up where it needs to be, secure on the back shelf, and it is secure up front. Secure in air quotes. If any of y'all know a good time with some Switch Pro type devices, some switch panels, I could use one right about here for all my lights anyway. And one about here for all the controls on the bug. So hook me up, folks. Hook me up. Anyway. All right, with the halo structure up where it's supposed to be at the proper height, it's time to start figuring out where I'm going to put these down tubes. So basically I'm going to stick it right here, come all the way down, and bam, right there, right basically where this heater vent is. I'll go ahead and cut this one out. I don't need it. The box tube I'm going to use right there, see it's like 6x3 or 6x4. I'm going to cut that into little L brackets and basically just cup this up completely. It'll go all the way down to this lower lip. I'll weld it all the way around, cap the ends, and that way when I run the tube, it'll go bam. It'll go, excuse me, bam. It'll go bam right onto the box on the landing pad right there. Then up front, same thing. Coming from this piece, I'm going to go all the way down, again, going into the dash itself, coming out the bottom of the dash, along the A pillar, slamming right there into another plate, which I'm going to cut out and put in. That will basically be the main structure of the cage. The 4 points, the forward 4 points. I know what you're thinking. Oh, you know, that's not very strong. We've replaced this before. We know this is not very strong. We need to go to the pan. It will go to the pan. I'm going to have that bracket come down. The pan itself is going to have a tube or something of that nature, and then I'll just bring little runners from the tube coming down, shoot, in there. So that way you have a less likelihood of obstructing getting in and out of the bug, and it will still go all the way down to the pan, which I'm going to construct. I am going to sell that pan and replace it with a home-built thing. So it'll be much stronger than what the factory came with, and much stronger than that for sure. I hope. At least it better be. Good grief. After cutting the heater vent inlet things off, I prepped the box tube I was going to use as the angle iron to make the cage landing pad. Cut in half. See if this thing works. If I recall correctly, it's going to sit right about there. All right, so what I need to do, I know I painted all this stuff up, but well, that's just the way it goes. You know what I mean? Okay. See what we got here. Yep, that'll do it. So I weld that to that. I'm going to cap the ends. That'll give me a nice solid place to just land it on. But anyway, let's keep going. Then I matched the marks on both sides and wire wheeled the paint from where the landing pads needed to be welded. After tack welding the angles to the heater channel, I drew out and cut the pieces needed to cap the ends of the landing pads. Man, I love this mini bandsaw. I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. It's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense, but makes sense to me, so we'll see how it works out. The goal is to push it as far as I possibly can against the side. Now I do have interior panels that I'm going to be putting in here. Don't want to mess up this too much. I'm going to both ways. So either I'm going to keep it totally orange and try not to mess it up, or I am going to use the rock fill matte everywhere, except for a few places to highlight the orange. That said, the cage is going to come straight down and land somewhere on this pad. I am doing some plate work. I got to pop that off and kind of close that gap up a little bit better than that. But basically just plating that up and stuff. I will say that this is very difficult to weld to. I have my 030 wire. I'm thinking about swapping it back to the 023 wire. Just because it's making mincemeat out of the factory metal. The factory metal is just so thin, and I've got my welder all the way turned down. It's just not. Anyway, so the thought is I'm going to take said little cutout and just pop that in. You see, I've already trimmed this one up a little better than that other side. So my goal is not to have very much space at all. You know, even though I'm making, I mean TIG weld space. That's what I want. I want no gap, so I can just run the bead and everything will work out just fine. My biggest issue at the moment, again, is welding to the stock metal. All in all, that'll serve as a nice little place. Now, I will say this. This is not meant to be the upright support, you know, so I am not attempting to give all my support to my cage off the factory sheet metal. That would be ridiculous. So the cage is going to come down to this, and then I'm going to bring another bar down to the pan itself, however I decide to build that. But currently I am just putting together the structure of the upper cage, and then once I have the pan in, I will be able to do all the stringers, spreaders, cross, you know, whatever, everything. But right now, while the pan is off and it's easy to get in here and work in here, I'm going to be doing this, finishing the cage, and then next I'm going to do the dash. After making some more cutouts for the landing pads, I tack welded them in place. Then with everything tacked, I started welding them solid. The material for the landing pad is pretty thick and was easy to get a good weld on. However, even with the welder turned down, welding to the factory metal was challenging. Here I kept popping through and just making holes. So I had to put down a couple passes, which did build it up and make it solid, but it didn't look good. Eventually I gave in and pulled the 035 wire out of the welder and swapped in the 023, rolled back in. With that, welding went a ton smoother. I should probably still get a 110 volt welder for any body work I do in the future, but I'll tackle that when the money permits. As you can see, the welding cleaned up pretty good, especially with the thinner wire and being able to turn down the welder to even a lower setting. And that's pretty much where I'm going to end this video. It's getting kind of long already, but next time we're going to cover the B pillar down tubes as well as the A pillar tubes, which you could probably see are already done. So until then, thanks for joining me on this little adventure of trying to weld to the factory metal. Please like, subscribe, and all that good fun stuff, and I will see you on part 2. I'm Damien, and this is the Binder Builder.